Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome to episode 48 of the Alec Walt Show. I'm your host, Alec Walt, alongside another very special guest, and today we're talking about the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Dodgers defeat the Cardinals 3-1 last night in the wild card game, and now they will play the San Francisco Giants in the division series. Joining me to talk about that series and more is Chris Gimenez, a former MLB catcher, the Dodgers' former game planning coach, and my good friend at MLB Network Radio. Chris, welcome back. I really appreciate you joining me.
Yeah, thanks, Alec. I'm really excited to be here. And what a game last night, right? Like, what an insane game. That's what baseball is all about.
Yeah, think about it. You guys were on your heels after the first inning. Scherzer had a pretty high pitch count. He got pulled way earlier than you wanted to. But who came up clutch? Justin Turner. And who also came up clutch? The best utility man in baseball, who didn't even start the game. The Dodgers are so deep, you have the ability to have him come off the bench and make an impact there. But the Dodgers needed a comeback. You guys did it, and it was definitely a game. You're on the edge of your seat most of that game last night.
No doubt. You know, when Chris Taylor hit that home run, as soon as it left his bat, I jumped up in the living room with my oldest son. The rest of my family's dead asleep, and I got yelled at because we were screaming. My oldest son and I were jumping up and down like little kids. But you know what? There's so many MVPs to give out in that game yesterday. Obviously, Justin Turner deserves his credit. He tied the game up in the fourth inning with the first home run on a curveball Adam Wainwright has thrown in the playoffs. And it was like over 600, something crazy like that, or right around 600. It's the first home run he's ever given up. So big props to JT on that one, you know, sitting, getting his pitch and really making him pay for it. You know, I think an unsung hero in this whole game is the entire LA Dodgers bullpen. You know,
bingo.
They came in from the fifth inning on and absolutely shut the door in some big-time situations. You know, Brusdar Graterol, who's had a little bit of an up-and-down year, came in and just mowed through the bottom part of that lineup. You know, Blake Trinan come in and almost given him two full innings off of, what was an incredible season he had. But then again, he's been used like crazy amounts. And then you come in and Kenley Jensen, for all of the criticism that he has received, he punched out all three batters in that ninth inning and did it with a runner at first base who was very, very capable of stealing and just really, elevating his game and locking down that ninth inning. Although it wasn't a save situation, it was arguably the biggest moment of the game, which you could say that probably about every single inning as they worked on. And then it gives the opportunity for Cody Bellinger, who's had a horrendous year by his standards. It's still a pretty good year in my standards, hitting 140 solid for me, but not for Cody Bellinger. And you know what? Draws a walk. It's only the second walk that the lefty had given up the entire year, which is absolutely insane. Cody's able to just lock it in like that, draw that walk, had a tremendous game, was on base 3 times, stole 2 bases to allow Chris Taylor to come up, who was mired in a Chris Gimenez-like slump. And I think he was 7 for 82, or he was 8 for 82 and then ended up being 9 for 83, or it's 7 for 82, 8 for 83. Whatever the case may be, it's an awful slump to be in. CT came in big time. Again, once Cody stole the base and got to second base, you could see in his mindset, just his approach to the game, he was all about changing his game plan. He's thinking a single back up the middle. He even stated that in his post-game interview. And it ended up, getting the pitch to hit and drove it out of the ballpark for a big, big Dodgers win.
Yeah, huge win last night. And now you face, of course, the team with the best record in Major League Baseball and the San Francisco Giants. As a diehard baseball fan, since you obviously know which team I support there over my shoulder, it is incredibly unfortunate that one of these two teams will not make it past the first round.
No, you're absolutely right. Obviously two teams that know each other extremely well, arguably as good as the Yankees and Red Sox know each other, right? From a competitive standpoint, just rivalry standpoint. This will be the first time the Giants and the Dodgers have ever met in the playoffs, which to me is crazy. And it's what baseball needed. I really did think that. But I'll tell you what, these are two teams that know each other very well. They're two teams that are extremely evenly matched. If you look at the Dodgers, they have slightly more star power, so to speak, or guys playing at an ultimate elite level that are star power players. Whereas the Giants have a little bit less of the household name variety. They still have the 3 holdovers from their World Series run a few years back, and they're all playing really, really good. But one thing, we can't sleep on really one team in this series. To me, the Giants do an incredible job of always having the platoon advantage. They are never, when there is an advantage to be had, they are never behind in that regard. And that's why I think the Giants have won one game more than the Dodgers, 107 games as opposed to 106. But I'll tell you what, I think they're going to be in this series. This is going to be an absolute dogfight. I think it's going to go 5 games. And, to me, it's the starting pitching. Whoever gets to their starting pitcher first and gets into that bullpen and wears them out, especially early in the series, I think it's going to have a major, major advantage. And whoever can kind of sneak, I know this is kind of a homer call, but whoever sneaks this first game is going to have a massive advantage in this series. Yes, from a statistical standpoint, but also just from a leverage, using bullpens, putting pressure on the other team. And I think, hopefully for me, it's a Dodgers win tomorrow night, and I can make fun of all my Giants friends just like I did last night.
So you, like I mentioned in the intro, you used to work for the Dodgers as a game planning coach. Put yourself back in that role right now. How would you game plan for the San Francisco Giants?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a massive game planning. It's going to be a community effort too. This isn't just a one-person deal. When it comes to the playoffs, everything is looked over to the nth degree. I'll guarantee you this. They are going to have a matchup for every single pitcher, a runway for every single pitcher that is on that roster. That, to me, is one of the most integral parts of game planning in the playoffs, is having multiple hitters a pitcher can face, especially now with the 3-batter minimum rule, trying to figure out the best runway for a certain guy to get in a certain type of situation. During the playoffs, every single situation is prepared for beforehand. We are talking about a game 1 starter of Walker Buehler. If he goes 3 innings and ends on Brandon Crawford, who comes into that situation if you're down by 1, 2, 3, 4? If you're up by 1, 2, 3, 4, and that goes the same for Julio Urias, who will be probably starting game 2 and then flip it back over to Max Scherzer game 3. There is always a plan in place. There are contingency plans in place, and there is something, I promise you, every possible situation will be picked over with a fine-tooth comb. That's not necessarily something that happens in the regular season just because of the time consumption part of it. But again, it should be a little bit easier for both these teams in these situations, knowing each other so well, being division foes, division rivals, and seeing each other 19 times a year already.
So if most teams in Major League Baseball lost a starting pitcher to the level of Clayton Kershaw, they probably wouldn't be considered contenders. They lose that star, but the Dodgers still have those pitchers you just mentioned. It must be crazy to think the depth. Like, you guys have the best 3-headed monster, in my opinion, in the playoffs right now, and that's without 2 of your starters, of course, due to other things outside of injury.
Correct. Yeah, correct. And to your point, the Dodgers lost 2 Cy Young starters this season. David Price has been kind of up and down in that mix where he's either started, he's come out of the bullpen, he's been more than willing to do whatever the team has asked him to do. And I think that you have to give credit because, first of all, we know Walker Buehler is really good. We obviously know Max Scherzer is a Hall of Famer, first ballot, surefire Hall of Famer. Julio Urias has come in this year. He's the only 20-game winner in the National League. He is obviously thrown massively major innings and very high octane, high level, high leverage innings for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Christ, he was on the mound for the last out of the World Series last year. So that shows you the type of leverage innings that he's pitching. But all of those times have been out of the bullpen. Now he's coming into this as a clear-cut starter. I think he's going to be a linchpin in this. He provides such a platoon advantage, being the fact that he can get lefties and righties out at almost an even clip. That is something that is really, really difficult to do. It's not something you see unless it is an elite type starter like this. The Dodgers, yes, are very blessed. They have 3 elite starters. But you know what? You can't take much away from the Giants starters either. Logan Webb has really signified himself as a number 1 in this rotation. He could be 1A, 1B, depending on how you look at it, with Kevin Gausman, who's also had a tremendous year. I think those 2 guys are going to be integral. If they can get those guys into the 6th inning, this Giants bullpen is no slouch either. They're top 3 in the baseball, in bullpen ERA, in FIP, and all of the other important metrics that we use to kind of grade these bullpens. It's a really, really important thing for them to be able to use those matchups to their advantage. If they can get those starters to go deep, the Giants have a chance to win. If the Dodgers can get to those starters early and have to get some of those lesser bullpen pieces in the game earlier to try to take advantage of, I think the Dodgers have a very good chance to win this series.
Well, another player you could be without in this series is Max Muncie, who injured himself. A tough loss there in the lineup. You guys obviously were able to make it up yesterday in the game, but this is when you get deeper in the series, you're definitely going to miss a bat like him in the lineup. How much of a
Yes.
loss is this going to be for the Dodgers?
I mean, honestly, it could be the game changer in this series. It really could be. You know, you take somebody out who's hitting close to 270 with 36 homers and almost 100 RBIs out of that lineup. Yes, they can cover it. Of course they can. But he's another power left-handed bat that they're not going to be able to use, you know, in big-time situations. And not only that, he's a leader in the clubhouse. Although he's still there at the games, it's a different type of scenario. You know, just knowing losing a guy of that offensive caliber is going to be a huge burden for the Dodgers. But like I said before, they have the pieces to kind of make that up and just mold that into the rest of what they're doing offensively. Two guys that are going to have to continue to step up are the two guys that stepped up massively last night in Cody Bellinger and Chris Taylor. You know, those are two guys that they're going to count on to either play first base in the outfield or mix and match. Matt Beatty ended up playing first base, getting the start yesterday in the wild card game. He's another factor who could come in. He's not of the offensive caliber as Max Muncy is, but again, a solid left-handed bat that's going to give you quality at-bats, quality innings out there defensively. And again, if any team can make up the loss of Max Muncy, it's the Dodgers, but don't let that shake it. It's going to hurt regardless, and he's going to be missed in that lineup for sure.
So you talked earlier about the bullpen. They were the unsung MVPs of that game last night in Los Angeles. Now the series moves to San Francisco, a very tough environment. You know, we always say it's not how you played through 162, it's how you're playing today. Kid, do you see this bullpen keeping it this consistent when they get into tougher environments like San Francisco and possibly some other markets in the National League if they advance in the series?
Yeah, so that's one thing too I think the Dodgers have going for them, right, is these guys are battle tested. They've been in these situations basically all year, last year, and the 2 years before that as well. It's mostly the same unit that's pretty much been there since 19. You know, Blake Trinan's a proven closer, a back-end relief arm that you can trust in any situation. And he's basically, you know, Dave Roberts' fireman, where he comes in the highest leverage situations, gets you out of it, hopefully with his teeth nice, clean, and shiny. And then, you know, obviously gives the ball back to Corey Knebel, who's finally healthy. He's also a big part of that bullpen. It just really lengthens out that bullpen, allows them to kind of mix and match the lefty situation that they have, keeps Kenley in the ninth inning. And again, you know, you got Trinan, Kenley, Joe Kelly, who threw a massive inning last night as well, who's starting to step up his game a little bit at the right time if you're a Dodger fan. That's one thing I would not be worried about, is them getting shaken in a crazy environment, which San Francisco will be electric. I would love to have a chance to go there. I think that, you know, just the rivalry itself, let alone it could be an April 15th game, Dodgers-Giants, and it's going to be a crazy environment. But this year, take it to the playoffs, first time they're meeting. You know, I think it'll be to the nth degree above what it already normally is. But I think the Dodgers are very well equipped to go into San Francisco and at least steal one game.
You mentioned Kenley Jensen's name a couple times. He's obviously a name I've heard frequently on MLB. He's been prone to some issues in the past, and he's starting to look like the old Kenley Jensen late in the season. That must be extremely refreshing for the Dodgers, because let's be real, he's dealt with a lot of criticism, but he's starting to quiet those people that were giving him smack a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you know what? It's got to be a huge sigh of relief for the Dodgers, because having a capable Kenley Jensen at the end of your bullpen, you know, obviously lengthens out that bullpen to where now you can use quality bullpen arms in other situations. It allows Dave Roberts and the Dodgers coaching staff to maybe take a starting pitcher out, to whereas Kenley's not going too good, you may try to push a Max Scherzer or a Urias or a Buehler through a situation. It now enables them to kind of get in there, start matching up with those bullpen pieces, whether it be righty, lefty, who they have very capable arms down there. It just allows that bullpen to really lengthen out and gives Doc some other options and when he can deploy those nasty weapons that he has down there.
All right, Chris, let's go over some predictions. We'll do some little more playoff predictions after this, but Giants, Dodgers, 5-game series. Give me the breakdown. What's your prediction?
So I think, you know, this series, to me, is going every bit of those 5 games. If it was 7, it would go 7, in my opinion. But these are two, you know, heavyweights in the National League, two elite pitching staffs, two elite offenses at this point as well. I'm going to have to go with my Dodgers eking it out. I think, the Giants just don't have enough offensively, even though they match up better than anybody in baseball, and they have more pinch hit home runs than anybody in baseball. And I think that's one thing that's made them so good. Gabe Kapler's not afraid to deploy those guys in the third, second, first, fifth inning, does not matter. But I think their luck kind of runs out, their Cinderella story. It's hard to call a 107-game winner a Cinderella story, but I think, given that they were only really, I think, predicted to win 70 some odd games, coming into this playoff type scenario, I think the Dodgers have too much firepower, and I think they end up winning this series in 5 games.
So if you have the ability to go Buehler, Urias, Scherzer, Buehler, Urias through a 5-game series, in some way, I feel like you can't pick against the Dodgers right now. I mean, I would
say it's really hard.
What Goskin have done. Like, those two have been spectacular this year. But that is for anyone in a series, they have to play the Dodgers this year. That is way too tough of a task through 5 games. I agree with you. I think the Dodgers do advance. I think the Dodgers advance a little bit further, but let's do some other predictions while we're here.
Sure.
There's another series in the National League, Braves Brewers. Who do you think faces the Dodgers in the National League Championship Series?
Yeah, so this is going to be a great series as well. I think we're really in luck with all of the series that have been labeled on now. I think every one of these series is going to be awesome. To me, though, I think the Braves have what it takes. They are a way more capable offense than Milwaukee Brewers are at this point in time. Yes, Milwaukee has that vaunted pitching staff, and it is to be respected, no doubt. But the loss of Devin Williams in that back end of that bullpen really puts pressure on a lot of other guys to step up in roles that they may not necessarily be accustomed to stepping up in. Now, with that being said, they, again, of any team, have the ability to make those adjustments on the fly. If Craig Counsell, that's one thing he's really good at, is kind of making stuff up on the fly and going against the grain a little bit and putting guys in situations that he knows they're capable of doing. He has a great pulse for that clubhouse, for that pitching staff, and I fully expect this game again, or this series, to go 5 innings. But I ultimately think the Braves are too much handle offensively. I think the Braves pitching staff is not a notch, too far behind, essentially, where the Brewers are right now. You couple that with a way better offense from a left-handed and a right-handed average perspective in OPS. I think the Braves come out of winning this in at least 5 games.
I was doing some research yesterday on the Braves and the Brewers. I interviewed Matt Atkins, actually, from MLB. You can find that video here on Down the Block Sports. The Braves finished the season 12-2. The Brewers finished 1-5. And in the month of August, the Braves' 2 starters, Fried and Morton, have not surrendered 3 or more earned runs in any of their starts.
Right. Yeah, I just think they're clicking on all cylinders
a good
right
time.
now. Yeah, they really are. And you know what? One thing that needs to be said as well, Alex Anthopoulos at the trade deadline completely remade this outfield. Losing a player of Ronald Acuña's status is obviously an extremely difficult thing to replace. And there was no one player on the market that was capable of replacing it. So instead of going for one guy, he ended up going with 4 or 5, and they've been able to mix and match. And that's really kind of changed the look of that outfield, how they can platoon those guys, and the types of players that they got have seemed to seamlessly fit in to this clubhouse. Again, makes them a very, very dangerous team.
All right, let's go to the American League. Here's your chance to talk about my Red Sox. They won yesterday, or they won 2 days ago. They beat the Yankees. They faced the Rays. Red Sox got a little momentum after that huge win against the Yankees in front of the home crowd, but no matter who's in Tampa, it seems like they're going to win close to 100 games, and they got 3 rookies and are still the favorites here in this series.
Yeah, they really do. I think ultimately the Red Sox will make this the series. They are playing really well last night, right now especially. On Tuesday night, they really surprised me how they got after Garrett Cole. You could see the energy within that clubhouse, within obviously on the field. The loss of JD Martinez, whether he's going to be able to play or not, is obviously going to play into the series. This is another series that I think will go 5 games. But ultimately, I think Tampa Bay, the way they are able to match up from a bullpen perspective, which is the best in the American League, they do plenty enough on offense that if they're able to take advantage of, some of this Boston pitching that has been a little bit wavy here in the second half, I think Tampa's going to ultimately win this game in 5, or win the series in 5 games. But I definitely think the Red Sox are going to give them everything they can handle.
Yeah, I mean, as a Red Sox fan looking at this series, I don't love that Erod starting game 1 in Tampa. Chris Sale didn't look too great. He's expected to start game 2. Yes, things can change when you're in front of the home crowd and Eovaldi's on the mound, but they're going to Tampa with two starters that aren't very trustworthy, and it's a little concerning knowing that Eovaldi's not going to be available for those two games.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. Waiting till game 3 to have arguably your best starter right now throw, it's a tough pill to swallow. But again, it's what they had to do to get here. They have enough offensively to make that up. If they can sneak one game out of Tampa, I think this series goes 5 games, no doubt in my mind. But I ultimately, again, think Tampa Bay is too much. I could be wrong, though, and for your sake, I hope I am.
So let's go to the other series. We have the Astros and the White Sox. They both won their respective divisions. Who do you think takes home that series?
Yeah, this is going to be a great series. Unfortunately for the White Sox, though, they're running into arguably the most complete team in the American League in the Houston Astros from a starting pitching standpoint, a bullpen standpoint, and definitely an offensive standpoint.
Oh, yeah.
I think right now, the way Chicago's pitching staff has kind of limped into the playoffs with a lot of injuries to main key guys, I think Houston wins this series in 4 games, and I really don't even think it'll be close, to be completely honest with you. I just think Houston is the most complete team in the American League, and they will play the Tampa Bay Rays and beat the Tampa Bay Rays to go to the World Series to face my Dodgers for the rest of it.
What would that mean for Major League Baseball?
I think it would mean a lot, actually.
I
think it would be more for the Houston Astros, personally, than it would for Major League Baseball. I think Houston, there's a lot of holdovers left over from that regime, that all of the bad things that we are referring to had happened. I think they're ready to kind of get this monkey off their back and prove, to basically the world that they definitely had the talent that was capable of winning a World Series. They did it disrespectfully and completely cheated, and I'm not for any of that. Don't get me wrong. But, I think they have some guys that are ready to kind of get that monkey off their back. They have a new leader in that clubhouse now in Dusty Baker, who I'm sure is more than willing to take his first World Series championship at any point in time in his career. So, I think it would be a great thing all around for baseball. It would help kind of turn the page on what was a very dark spot.
Yeah, but if I'm the Dodgers and I get the chance for some revenge.
Oh, you better believe they're ready for that.
I think you know where I'm going, who I think's winning this series. I think the Dodgers would go. It would be wild.
Yes, I think they are. Obviously, there's a long way to go before the Dodgers get there.
Oh yeah.
If they were to get to this situation, they would be salivating at the opportunity to kind of right the wrong, so to speak.
Could you imagine facing your division rival, a rematch, and then another rematch in this postseason?
Yeah, that could be pretty awesome.
Wild. Or, of course, baseball, and the complete opposite could happen of what we just said. And
exactly,
the Brewers could come out of nowhere and make me look stupid for making that 5 out of 6 loss comment here on this show. So, hey, that's what's great about this game. I have no idea what's about to happen, and I cannot wait for games to get started here in the playoffs. Chris, before I let you go, man, how can our listeners keep up with you on social media and listen to you on MLB Network Radio?
Yeah, so you can listen to me on Friday nights on MLB Network Radio, channel 89 on Sirius XM. Myself and Jeff Joyce do a round-trip roundup show, basically going over all of our games for the day. Obviously, we're going to have a huge playoff-type game tomorrow. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Tomorrow, there are 4 games worth of these playoffs on, and we have a chance to kind of listen to us, kind of break down what's happened, give our little bit of a prediction of what's going to happen after that. And then, of course, you can always follow me on Twitter at Chris Gimenez 5. Be careful what you wish for on that, because I've been known to say some outlandish things on there. But again, you guys have the opportunity to do that as well.
All right, Chris. Well, thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to join me here on the Alec Walt Show.
Alec, I appreciate you having me on. And again, let's go Dodgers. Let's go Red Sox.
Yeah, let's hope for that World Series. Let's hope for that. I don't think it's going to happen, but we can be hopeful. Anything can happen here in baseball. So, Chris, again, thank you. That was awesome. That's going to be it for this episode of the Alec Walt Show. I'm your host, Alec Walt, alongside Chris Gimenez. Who do you believe wins this series between the Dodgers and the Giants? Feel free to comment that below. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Down the Block Sports for more of my exclusive content. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we will see you very soon.